What is a man? A featherless biped, a miserable little pile of secrets. How about an orc with rippling abs that plays a killer lute, or an elf with a penchant for cowering behind the gnome warlock? Tonight we discuss gaming systems, the good, the bad, the ugly, and maybe create some characters for Rasclin to guide through a future campaign.
Such is life. Oh, I had a little bit of a long work day, but got through it. And you? Yep. I should have brought something up yesterday. So I plan on running next week if everything goes according to plan. I mean, something could still happen. People don't feel like it, and we might just do Jackbox or something similar, but I will be prepared to run. It's not that bad. It's just, I wanted to give us something. I wanted to give us some variance. I mean, I like Jackbox. I went ahead and bought some of it, actually, so. But yes, I'm prepared for horror and comedy. Because, of course, I'm an old fan of certain things, like Ravenloft, and Nodwick, and Looking for Group, the webcomic. And I have a horrible, twisted sense of humor from years of playing the same Vampire the Masquerade character in a LARP for 4 years. Some of you remember me as the gangrel Erk Apfion. Some of you remember me in a certain changeling LARP as Father Jacob Darrow. Some of you remember playing a werewolf who could not take the werewolf form, but could take all the surrounding forms, named Chislev. right? So, before we get to some game building, in the news this week, yes, Texas and Oklahoma are both giving financial incentives to schools that teach the Bible. I'm simplifying, but that's the gist of it. The basics is they use the Bible as a resource. Teachers groups in both states are not happy. No, I definitely would not be. But I would think the opinions of the teachers might count for something. And in more controversial news, I'm going to bring up a... How controversial are you okay with me getting? Israel-Palestine. That's why I ask. I know my views on the subject, and they're not popular with anyone. No, 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 no. My views are really not popular with anyone. But here's the news from there. The International Criminal Court outright issued warrants. Now, only 3 so far. One is for Netanyahu, one is for Gallant, and another is for one of the main commanders of Hamas. I should note that Israel claims that said commander is dead. It's easy to look at my view as both sides, but there's more to it. I don't want a ceasefire because I don't want to legitimize Hamas. It doesn't mean I'm wild about Israel's current government, but at the same time, I'm open to a one-state or two-state solution, but the big thing is the bombing, regardless, has to stop. Hamas does need to be hunted down, but it needs to be on the ground. We can't just keep doing, shell and pound. And my gods, the settlements where they literally run people out of their houses need to be declared illegal, and charges need to be pressed on a lot of people. I'm almost kind of for the idea of the US going in and occupying our ally, because I have the feeling that our presence is a lot more intimidating than the IDF. Besides, our main reason we even support Israel is to keep their civilians from getting slaughtered by Iran anyway. So a giant US presence right there is kind of a, yeah, no one should mess with this area right now, to all the neighbors. This would immediately put the kibosh on a lot of conflicts in the area. Like, yes, everyone loves picking a fight with Israel down there, but not so much us, because we might actually hurt them. So, I'm aware this is extremely, extremely unpopular as a view. But I base it on numbers, namely the fact that I look at our numbers during the occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan, and the kill count is nowhere near per day what is being racked up at the moment. And I'm someone who is against both of those occupations. So I didn't think of this lightly. This was very much, holy crap, it's so much worse. We might actually be a stabilizing influence. Isn't it though? So I told you no one was going to like my view on this. Like, disproportional, do you mean? Or fat electrician? I feel like I should know that, but I don't. When you say Bears, do you mean the sports team? Oh, yeah. I'm not really very happy about their decision. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's been that way for weeks since we got the news. Like 2 weeks ago in this channel we were talking about because I was just fresh back from visiting Nighttime. What was that? Woot. Wait, so you can't hear me? No, Gas Giant says there's only one of you I can hear. I think so. So, Gas Giant, are you hearing me, Rasclin? Ah, that is, huh? They cannot hear. That's very well. Wait, if your computer had the mic muted, how am I hearing you? Ah, that would do it. Okay. I have a feeling once you unmute, you're going to get some feedback. All right. So, yes, Gas Giant, the current situation is yes, our host, Caden, cannot be heard because of an OBS issue, apparently. This is going to. So, the first few minutes of this particular podcast are me giving an announcement and sounding insane. Like a strange version of Garfield minus Garfield. Yes. Well, then. Also, camera wise, I just refreshed the screen and you are. Yeah, we are not centered on your face or head at all. Part of your forehead on the left of your. Yeah, no idea. It is not. It really is not. Authentic. Hopefully everyone can hear you now, or I'm really sounding crazy. I mean, true. Could work. Huh. Technology finding new ways to vex us. Alright, your camera's focused now.
Okay, now OBS should be picking it up. For some reason, it didn't recognize that the mic was plugged in.
Yes, Giant, are you able to hear Caden now?
I can hear me.
Alright.
Hi, hello, you didn't miss anything, just me rambling, saying that I found a fan out in the wild while he's meeting a friend's husband. Hello, everybody. Sorry that I am such a fuck up. Okay, so yeah, let's get into the topic of like character systems and upsides, downsides. Are there any particular ones that you like?
For characters?
Just in general, like, what's the best system that you've encountered so far?
Oh, system. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can start with character creation, but then in general, like, what's the most
Alright.
player-friendly system?
Alright, so as far as my absolute favorites for working with, probably Mutants and Mastermind 2nd Edition, a D20 variant that works in a point-buy system instead of character levels. So take what we tend to like about things like Hero 6th Edition and give it a D20 facade. I'm not going to count any other D20 variants past that because, you know, that's just my favorite version of it as far as character creation.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Hero, I think I would have to put it at a third because my second is probably going to be traditional World of Darkness. We're talking Masquerade 1st through 4th edition and Requiem 1st edition. So the 1st through 4th of World of Darkness and the 1st of Chronicles of Darkness. 5th edition World and 2nd edition Chronicles get a little far from what it is, so yeah, and I guess, Giant, you like that particular era, World of Darkness from late 90s to early 2000s. Did you try 4th edition, also known as Vampire 20, Werewolf 20, etc.? Okay, so in 2010, White Wolf announced they were going to do a 20th anniversary edition of Vampire the Masquerade. And at the time, they had no intention of continuing the meta. So it was just going to be a one-off, single 500-page book with every clan, every bloodline, every discipline, and a good chunk of the Paths of Enlightenment for Vampire the Masquerade. This went into Dark Ages as well, to a point. It did exceedingly well, so they did another quick Kickstarter for a companion volume. This also did well. So, alright, we'll try Werewolf. Okay, let's do some Dark Ages, and hey, how about a continuation of the plot as kind of a what-if, assuming we hadn't ended it all in 2004? Oh hey, people are eating this up. Okay, we're going to up things. We're going to create a 16th generation of vampires. We're going to release stats for 3 extinct breeds of changing breed for werewolf. We're going to create a 3rd major faction for Mage the Ascension. We're going to continue Wraith the Oblivion, now with a vegan leather cover. And then 2018 rolls around and we get 5th edition Vampire, and it's different. 5th edition Vampire the Masquerade almost went with an ultra simplified system, which would probably have gone over about as well as 4th Ed D&D did. They decided against this. Yeah, like, I see some of the benefits of 5th edition, but at the same time, there are things that feel like either missed opportunities or just deliberate choices to make it incompatible with previous editions. One of those things is the simple fact that you cannot play anything on a Path of Enlightenment now. You must be on humanity. All Sabbat are now on Paths, so this makes Sabbat unplayable. What was your favorite clan, Gastroint? He says he doesn't like that his favorite clan got rolled into another clan, for those who cannot read the chat. And I've read which clans have been rolled into what, so I probably will know what happened to his clan.
Of course it's Bruja.
They didn't exactly get rolled into another clan. Unless you mean in Requiem, where they basically are part of what would be seen as the, oh god, how have I forgotten one of the 5 clans in Requiem?
I had the Requiem book, so... I think they kept it to the core 5.
Okay, for Masquerade, I'm pretty sure the Bruja are still there.
For Masquerade, yes, Bruja are definitely still there.
Right, Bruja in Requiem were always a gangrel bloodline. But they're 2 separate continuities, so... Like, so Theo Bell is still over in Masquerade. He is still a Bruja. He just happens to be an Anarch now, because he's left the cam after having basically taken down Hardstat in front of an entire conclave. Well, there's 2 different gangrel. The gangrel you know from Masquerade have the same technical discipline spread as the gangrel from Requiem, but the weaknesses are a little different, and so is the background of the clan. Gangrel in Requiem are more like, honestly, they've got a bit of the Zimiche going for them. Keep in mind that Nosferatu over in Requiem aren't necessarily 0 appearance, but then there is no appearance stat. So I think we were looking at 2 different continuities, Gas Giant. Bruja are only rolled into the Gangrel in a separate continuity launched in late 2004, Vampire the Requiem, which is, that does not hinge on Masquerade whatsoever. In Masquerade, the Bruja are still one of the 13 clans. And that's been continued on to its 5th edition since 2018. There are some questionable things about 5th edition, like they retconned a character death from 1st edition. Lodin, the Prince of Chicago. Okay, yeah, Gas Giant, if you saw a book and the Bruja were part of the Gangrel, then you were looking at Vampire the Requiem. Same publishers, different continuity. The 5 clans of Requiem are Ventru, Gangrel, Nosferatu. Why can I not remember my two bloody...
Define them, and I'll see if I can remember the name.
One of them has the discipline spread of the Bruja, and a very similar weakness, but they are not the same. And they are the Deva. Then there's the Meket, which have a bit of Sferatu and the Malkavians going for them, but minus the... and a bit of the Sedites. Actually, Sedite Malk might be a better way to put it. Was labeled as 5th edition. That's... yeah, you definitely... If you have one where the Bruja are the biker gang offshoot, then yes. Very much mislabeled. As of 5th edition, Vampire the Masquerade, the Bruja have basically overwhelmingly left the Camarilla, just like the Gangrel did. But, I want to put a huge caveat here, but the two aren't really allied. The Gangrel went off and did their own thing. The Bruja are definitely part of the Anarch movement, and so are your modern-day Sedites, who have overwhelmingly stopped worshipping Sets quite so much. I should note that I years ago wrote a book myself. I'll go ahead and hit my camera. You may need to adjust where you've got.
I was already going to adjust you anyways, so go ahead, hit your camera. Heh,
So,
not that much, actually.
yeah, it still hasn't come up live on my set.
I'm looking at a ceiling fan. Yeah, a little lower. There you go. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to readjust it in OBS anyway, so keep the cam there.
So, yeah, things that have happened. In, Masquerade, the Giovanni have effectively kind of exterminated themselves. But it's an odd thing. They created a new clan that is effectively a faction that is all the old Death Ones. That includes the Giovanni, Cappadocians, Harbingers of Skulls, Samity, and several others. And the big thing for them is basically they all have Oblivion, which is a new discipline that takes the place of necromancy. I can feel olive on my chair. Yes, girl. Yes. I'm trying to remember the name of said clan/faction now, but they've basically taken over a good chunk of Venice, and yes, girl, I know. You were just out, too. You have zero self-control. So...
She's adorable, she doesn't need self-control.
She does not, really. Basically, yeah, Oblivion now takes place of both of Tenebration and Necromancy, which oddly enough means technically the old La Sombra and Giovanni would have had the exact same discipline spread. Potents dominate Oblivion. But they've altered the discipline spreads for these groups. So nothing quite works the same. Zimishe got a severe change. Old Clan Zimishe had Auspex dominate animalism. The Zimishe we know with Vicissitude replaced Dominate with that. Tremere are technically a Zimishe bloodline that has Thaumaturgy instead of Animalism. Both of these got severely altered. The Banu Hakim, also known as the Assamites, were briefly 3 bloodlines, and now that's been condensed again. Quietus, for those of you who remember it, is now a form of blood magic. So the Banu Hakim have thaumaturgy, or an offshoot of it, in clan now. It's a lot to take in, a lot of changes. Let's see here. Ravnos Shimmerstry is now, I believe, an offshoot of Obfuscate. Dementation is an offshoot of Dominate. Protean now contains offshoots that effectively make it both Vicissitude and Serpentis. It's a lot of change. Let's see, the last time I was able to play the World of Darkness game was when I was in high school, and everyone was running around like it was the Matrix with black leather and people. Okay, so it was definitely a part. I've been there. I the old leather jacket I used to wear 25 years ago, 26 years ago. I was a gangrel in a LARP from 1998 to 2002. I would let her play other characters, but that probably controlled a lot of my LARP style. Characters I played afterwards. I think my changeling characters were more favorited after that. And I was briefly in an old Zimishe game at Gen Con one year called Make Vicissitude Great Again. I was Count Radu Bistri. So it effectively used V4, i.e. 20th Anniversary Edition rules. I felt a little weird because a lot of the people there weren't that familiar with the system or the setting or their character. Not all, but several. Yes, I wore assless chaps as well, Gas Giant, but I wound up also wearing them to fetish night, and that could have been a mistake.
Please stop reminding me that you have assless chaps.
As opposed to assful chaps?
No, those are called pants.
But yeah. 5th edition has changed a lot of things. Blood potency and generation are no longer necessarily synonymous. Attribute scores going above 5 due to severe generation / blood potency are no longer necessarily going to happen. Yes, I have seen stats in-game for a 4th generation vampire. They are much weaker than they used to be under the severe power creep that was 2nd edition.
That seems to be a trend with 5th editions. You just nerf everything.
Yeah, and I'm still not happy about the... According to the house rules, you cannot be in a path of enlightenment. Now, an independent group did come out with a path equivalent for the game, and I went ahead and bought their book. Ironically, theirs is the only book I've purchased for 5th edition Vampire, is what is technically a bootleg. Although it did go through the storyteller system, so bootleg might be a misnomer. But it's like, I don't like a lot of the books that have come out for 5th edition Vampire, so I have not rewarded them with the purchase thereof.
Fair, fair.
I say this as someone who, if I turn the camera the right way, you will see tons upon tons of books. Allow me to switch to Discord so I can see. Yeah, that is one of my shelves. One.
At least it's well organized.
There were more shelves in this room, and my tenants destroyed them. So a lot are in my guest room. In fact, easily there is more White Wolf over there than there is over here.
So you know what? Now we have to go to the opposite question. So, what is the worst system that you have played with?
You already know the answer to that.
No. Fatal doesn't count.
Okay, worst system that has
Worst
that
system of a legitimate game.
5th edition modern D20, but not as robust. You're saying, Gas Giant? Yeah. I mean, I'd probably wind up going just the Starfinder route. You've seen Pathfinder; they do Starfinder, so there's that. Uh, the worst system that is still functional that I would play in. Honestly, I hate to say this. Space 1889. I say this as someone who likes the game, especially for the setting. A runner-up, my second worst system, 4th edition Shadowrun.
Yeah, I could see that one.
I can't weigh in on 6th edition. It just, after 5th barely lasted any time and 6th came hot on its heels, I'm like, okay, settle for a while, and then I'll pick up an edition.
Yeah.
Like, I went out, I picked up copies of 4th Deluxe Edition, then 5th, and then 6th came in right immediately. I'm like, nope, settle down. Can't be Games Workshop here. They're on their 10th, coming up on 11th edition soon of Warhammer 40k.
Maybe it's because of the setting I've been playing it in, but recently I've been having to deal with the Dragonbane system. Not liking it so far.
And then there's the Zweinhandler system, was a newcomer on the market, but they hit some controversy that I'm not going to get into. GURPS is easy to figure out. Like, the power level depends on your game. GURPS was one of the first systems to do crossover with World of Darkness, having books for Mage, Werewolf, and Vampire. Let me grab something off my shelf, though. I told you this existed. The camera may reverse it, I don't know.
Well,
yeah.
let's check. Reverse, no, but in the stream, it's just incredibly
Larry?
zoomed in.
Like that. Okay. So yeah, if you ever want to cross the streams, I have a book ready for you for 3rd edition D&D. I am working on a 5th edition Vampire, and 5th edition D&D. This is the 3rd, to an extent, 3rd edition D&D, 3rd and 4th editions of Vampire. So, disciplines had to be combed down. Like, Celerity is not going to give you 5 actions around in D&D. That would be broken. Having 5 levels of it will help you, but... Oh, there is one other thing similar to that. See, in 2007... there was a lot going on over the upcoming release of 4th edition D&D, and people thinking it was going to be a lot more of the same. There you are. People basically thought, for similar reasons, that when 3rd edition was going to come out, people thought it wouldn't be too different from 2nd. They thought we would still have things like Thaco. Do you remember Thaco, children? Well, 2007 came around, and compatible with 3rd edition D&D, 3.5 at the time, really, Monty Cook's World of Darkness. This is basically, and he did this after I did mine, but his is pretty well done. This is a conversion of Vampire the Requiem, and all the settings around it. Werewolf the Forsaken, Demon, there's a lot. He combined all those into this and made a post-apocalyptic setting out of it. Chicago gets wiped off the map. Don't ask me why this happens a lot.
Nobody likes Chicago.
In Shadowrun, Chicago got overrun by bug spirits. Here, it was ground zero for what was basically an apocalyptic event, and the area around it is just kind of gone.
Yeah, well, they've proven it that, most post-apocalyptic or young adult post-apocalyptic fantasies, especially after Hunger Games and Divergent, take place in Chicago.
I admit I don't know much about Hunger Games.
Well, Hunger Games technically starts out in Virginia, so it's more my area. But yeah, they're like, anytime you see a post-apocalyptic city, especially in movies, it's usually Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, Gas Giant is someone who has lived in Chicago and still loves the city. Yes, there's that, but there's also a hell of a goth industrial scene. Provided you can get a decent place to live and a decent place to work, and that the commute between the two is not insane, it's not a bad place to live. But I own my house down here in Champaign, 2 hours south. I jokingly call this Chicago's furthest suburb. But yeah, there are reasons that Chicago by Night became the first major setting for Vampire the Masquerade. Milwaukee as well. I have both books. Did you live or visit there, Gas Giant? Gas Giant says was not there long enough to experience any of that. Okay. If you ever go again, based on what your interests are, I can direct you to some very interesting portions of the city. I was just there 2 weeks ago, getting back from Reno because my flight got into O'Hare. So at that point, I just take the blue line into downtown, run around for a bit before my train left for Champaign.
Two things you like about Chicago: hot dogs and deep dish pizza.
It is very good deep dish pizza. I am trying to make a vegan version. I intend on making it with my alternative pesto, which is an apple butter base, which makes it more like marinara in terms of fat content and consistency. So, deep dish, pesto, Chicago style. As opposed to a deep dish Detroit style. Jet's pizza would be Detroit style. Okay. Oh god, yeah, you are going to have a field day. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, there's a hell of a metal scene. Chicago's metal scene isn't as dominant as, say, Milwaukee's metal scene, but oh god, it is so definitely there.
That doesn't sound like a real thing, the Milwaukee metal scene.
That is a real thing.
I mean, I know it's a real thing because, you know, I'm a metalhead, so I know that it's there. But just when you say it out loud, Milwaukee and metal.
Live near. Our guest giant lives near LA and feels starved sometimes. Yeah, I'm sorry, you haven't had much since hair metal faded from LA. I'm so sorry. Limousine, notwithstanding, for those of you who watch Homestar Runner and saw their recent music video.
It's amazing that
Now
they
we
can still
know
hit those
I'm
high
old.
notes.
Hmm?
Said it's amazing they can still hit those high notes.
I was half convinced they... Oh, okay, now that had to have been a show. I have not been to a good concert
I'm
since
just
before
trying
the
to
pandemic.
imagine the amount of pyrotechnics and leather.
Weird, strange concerts I've been to. Back in Kansas City, I saw Chicago and the Doobie Brothers. I've caught Joan Jett 3 times. I've only caught 38 Special once.
Well, damn, only 37 more to go.
I've caught True Shadows so many times I've accidentally walked into their concerts, and I'm not even kidding on that one. Technically twice. Accidentally wound up at a They Might Be Giants concert in Milwaukee once. I should explain that one. I was at Gen Con. I was in a big room. The room emptied out, and suddenly we were at a There Might Be Giants concert. I got nothing. Saw Phil Collins once. That was my first concert. Rob Halpert only sat down for 2 minutes as he was talking to the audience. the amount of energy he was giving off was impressive for a guy in his 70s. I mean, I'll believe it. Some of these bands that are still touring are just like, holy shit. I mean, Depeche Mode was still touring even up to... Oh god, two of them are dead now. I mean, part of me wants to see Big Country, but, you know, it's not the same anymore. Part of me wants to see the Smiths, but I'm dreading the idea that Morrissey might open his mouth and spout his opinions.
I'm very quiet tonight, but I'm just kind of enjoying the vibe.
Just getting a message from work.
Oh no.
No, nothing like that. Well, they're not calling me in or anything. It's just a note I should know for tomorrow. I don't have to be into work for another 12 hours. I should put this book away. This is a very good book at the time. 2007, this retailed for about $50. I don't know what it would go for now. The rule of the used market is typically everything is half off, but at this point, this thing is 17 years old. It's a collective, or a collector's item. So, what can you do? Quick note, I am intending at some point making my way over to, freaking Las Vegas for the Las Vegas Open and getting some Warhammer Kill Team in with my Thousand Sons. Because I've got two armies. I'm Thousand Sons, I'm Gene Stealers, which means I could also kind of branch into Chaos Space Marines and Tyranids in general. Numenera is a good system. I did like it. Also, if you want a completely diceless, almost mechanicless system, Nobilis. Great White, oh god, and Quiet Ride. Oh wow, bang your head and come on, feel the noise are still drilled into my skull. Now, another one I've got, okay, I want to show you all a real rarity here. Not you. No, yes, no, Rutabaga, maybe. Aha! Here we are. Ladies, gentlemen, as Olaf would say, brothers, sisters, and gender norm resistors, all those assembled.
I'm surprised you didn't do a Prince impression.
Well,
Bubblegum Crisis.
Bubblegum Crisis, the RPG. Now, there were a few RPGs that came out for the various anime. Slayers and Trigun, I have copies of these, but they are standard D20. Occasionally you'll see them come out for Big Eye, Small Mouth. This, from our Talsorian games, uses what's known as the Fusion system. Quick note, I did get to meet Kenji Sonoda a few times at Anime Central. The joke is he shows up there every 10 years, but the problem is it's not much of a joke. I saw him in 98, 08, and 2018. I've been conventioneering for a while, folks. I'm going to put this right. Thought I had. Very good. And for those of you who want to feel really old, there was a time when D&D did not put their monsters... 2000. Mine was 97. Hello, Flutter Sage. Before D&D used books for their monsters, they used binders. You would pick up your Monstrous Compendium binder, and you would pick up new expansions for it and add them into the binder.
Also, yes, hello, Flutter Sage, and thank you for subscribing.
That was Volume 1. I kept telling myself I would grab more. Like, I think I've got some Greyhawk somewhere, etc., etc. I still have the orange first edition stuff too. So yes, Monster Manuals did use a book. And later in second edition, especially as of 93 and later in the 2.5 era, we see more book. Hey, booking. I've been sitting on that joke all night.
I love how I named the stream Let's Play God, and we're doing everything but.
My third least favorite system, even though I love the setting. A lot of you are going to want to shoot me for this one. Rifts. Rifts lacks a lot of flexibility considering the crazy levels of power you get in it. So,
I mean, it's a legitimate concern.
I like the idea of being able to, sure, when I rolled this character, I had a plan in mind, but hey, no plan survives first contact with the enemy.
It's not true.
Yeah.
The plan of strapping
Okay.
yourself with explosives always survives first contact.
Gas Giant, you started a bit before me. My first game was in 92. It was in 93. I got my rule books in 92, but I was in junior high, so I just caught some kids and we just played there.
I still haven't played a game of D&D.
Next week could change that.
Maybe. Well, I mean, it can't change it, though.
How's that?
Well, because even if we have next week, we still have to do character creation.
I'm willing to run character creation for everyone separately. Nightkind will likely not be on next week. She just sent me a message.
Yeah.
So.
I dread to
Okay.
think of gamers in a tabletop situation.
Gas Giant, I think you're about my age. I'm 45. So, yeah. We are in that era where, okay, yeah, we're not too far off.
Oh, you are the answer to the life, meaning, and everything.
I regret when I was your age not using that joke enough. But yeah, we are the ones we grew up with rotary telephones, and now we have these bloody things.
I always
It's okay.
liked rotary phones.
I don't miss them.
Hmm.
Like, don't get me wrong, I grew up before cell phones, let alone before smartphones, and I don't miss having to wait by a phone because I think someone's going to call, and because we were better at planning back then, but we weren't perfect at it.
I miss playing roulette every time I answer the phone.
Roulette?
Yeah. You didn't have caller ID. Was it spam?
Oh.
Was it a telemarketer? Was it your friend? You don't know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, I think we had a little less spam back then via phone call, but not.
Well, yeah, because back then they didn't have databases. If they wanted to call you, they had to go through the phone book. Hey kids, do you remember that? A phone book?
You think it's creepy having your phone number on the internet now? Oh, if you only knew, children.
How about everybody's phone number right there in a book that also doubled as a handy weapon?
True. Speaking of weapons. Did I not have it? Okay, it's piled under other books. I'll get it later. I was going to show you all the Hero 6th edition book, but I think we'll hold off on that for now. Now, feast your eyes, children, on a relic of 1992. Okay, so for those of you who play World of Warcraft, like myself, we have been dealing with a giant city full of spiders lately, and it has been interesting. I've really enjoyed it. It is the closest I've ever come to being in this box set, Menza Berenson, City of the Drow. An entire box set devoted to one city. Crazy at the time idea, but later on they would bring back the concept for the box set of Zental Keep. I should note this came out about the same time as Chicago by Night. It started raining here. Again.
I don't know if it's raining around us. I know it has been for the past couple days.
Okay, you left. Yep. Yes, Giant. I've been playing WoW since '04. I've also been playing FF14 since either 2015 or 2016. So yes, I play 2 MMOs. Have pity on my soul. I do love me some WoW. I still have my orc statue they sent me for being a 10-year subscriber. So I hope we get something for the 20-year. It's gone up and down. I really have been enjoying War Within, and before it Dragonflight. Before that we had 2 bad expansions in a row, Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands. Favorite expansion is still Wrath of the Lich King. But Legion was a close second. Legion was very good. Legion was very good. Panda was better than it had any right to be. Warlords of Draenor was a disaster. Yeah, nowadays you have transmog for your appearance. So if you like an appearance, you can stay with it. Though it can get pretty expensive depending on what items you're transmogging. FF14 is actually way better about this with the glam system. So take that as you will. Over there, you can have, in theory, the same appearance for all your classes if you really want to.
Trying to think what else.
No, I can.
What else do we miss about the old days?
Let me put this box in back.
You know, I was gonna make the joke, hey, being able to afford our hobby, but no, I don't think we've ever been able to do that.
I was still kind of am. It's not like I've had to sell off
Arcades.
my books or anything.
That is something I miss.
Yes.
Honest to God,
There are still
arcades.
Every year at Gen Con, I go to the arcade in Indianapolis. It is on the 5th floor of the shopping mall, and they have no games.
I fucking hate that. Okay, so that is the first thing I did when I got down
There's
to...
a museum group there. There's a museum group there that brings the old games. Like, you want to play Tron from the 80s? They got that shit. You want to play all the versions of Street Fighter 2 that came out? They got that shit.
Yes, that is the first thing I did when I got down to Texas, and I am so glad they brought one here into my town. I found the retro arcades. The ones that have the old cabinets and they just put it on free play. I love that shit.
You pay an entry fee and then you go to town?
Yeah.
We've got that here too. The suburbs of Chicago have got at least 2. Yes, absolutely. Now, as far as 20 years ago, I was already emulating arcade games on an old desktop at the time. And I'm sure it can do amazing things now with what was in the arcades back then.
It just doesn't
games
capture the
like
feel,
Jack-
though.
Hmm?
It doesn't capture the feel,
It
though.
won't have it won't be the same as standing out, hearing all the surrounding things, smelling whatever weird shit they got from the concession stand, or wafting in from the food courts.
The honor
Do I
system of
know
putting your
what I
quarters
heard?
on the machine, punching out the next motherfucker because he didn't listen.
big. I mean, before the one-on-one fighting games, because I loved as soon as Street Fighter 2 came out in 1991 and changed everything. But up to that point, I was wasting all my quarters in things like Double Dragon 2.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, when I started going to the arcade, it was the early 90s, so they were already starting to phase out. But I still grew up with,
I'm
like,
sorry.
House of the Dead and all of that.
I'm sorry you did not get to experience the arcades of the early 80s as I did. Yeah, gun games would drain a lot of them.
You know what I
so
need? We both need to try it. If we can find an emulator and we can figure out how to stream it. I know the best game for our nerd tendencies to stream. And that's Typing of the Dead.
I've seen bits of this. I will kick everyone's ass.
Are you sure? What is your words per minute?
We do math games when we're doing Trivia Murder Party. Do I not fight the floor with everyone the second numbers come up?
That's numbers. This is typing.
I'm a professional editor.
And what is your words per minute?
Higher 660.
Mine's around 127.
Ooh, we might have a dead set challenge here.
I had to take the test in order to apply for Geico. So.
Okay. Now, you'll love this. When I was first going to arcades in the early 80s, it was a big red room. So it would have been definitely like, when I saw ads for Stranger Things, I thought, that's my arcade.
Mm-hmm.
But they're in a lunchroom. I don't care. That's my arcade. I remember going in and playing Gauntlet 2. You're going to see 2 behind a lot of these game names, okay? It's just how it works. But yeah, Gauntlet 2 was just one of the cord readers of the time.
Yep.
And Contra.
Yeah.
Jade Contra.
I remember when they ported Gauntlet to the N64, and nobody knew what to make of it.
Oh, arcade, like the arcade Gauntlet of the 90s.
Yeah.
The save games.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just remember, old Gauntlet.
Oh, wait, no. It didn't really have save games when they ported it to N64. That was like the sequel. The original.
But the arcade version.
Yeah.
The arcade version, because you could go in and grab your old progress.
Yeah, the original N64 port had the checkpoint system. You had to have your passwords.
Gauntlet 1 actually did something similar once they ported it to 8-bit Nintendo.
And then, that used to be the best thing, was when you could abuse the password system. As long as you knew the password, you can jump in wherever you wanted.
I remember the games I played. In 1988, I played the absolute fuck out of Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. A lot of people probably just winced as soon as they heard that game's title. I was that bastard who played that and Romance of the Three Kingdoms on 8-bit NES, because I was a very fucked up little kid. Boy and his Blob was really weird for 8-bit NES.
Yeah.
Mega Man 3 was good. Mega Man 3 and Mega Man 2 have one thing in common. The final boss you can only beat with a weapon that is practically close range, practically melee. Bubbles in one game, snakes in the other. I beat them both as a kid and it drove me nuts. And yes, for those who are wondering, I do own Street Fighter 6. I have been updating. I played a bit. I wish the controller schemes was a little more like 2, but I'm not going to get everything I want. Wait, that actually worked? Wait, on 3? It's been years for me. I mean, I remember... So, Mega Man 2 and Strider were both Capcom releases that came out the exact same summer of 1989. Oh, bloody hell, it's a one-shot? Damn. back then they were coming out with new and innovative games. Blaster Master for 8-bit Nintendo.
Oh, I love Blaster Master. I can still hear the title music. Yep. Admit it, you watched that intro movie. You watched that intro movie, you're like, I don't even give a fuck about the frog, I just want the tank.
So many of those video game songs are stuck in my head and will be for till the day I die.
But that was the point of them.
Yes, there was.
And okay, see, that's kind of a lost art, because nowadays we have beautiful orchestration, but at the same time, is there really a jingle that sticks with you in it? No. You can't say it, I can't say it. No Final Fantasy XIV fan will ever say Good King Moggle, because if you do, I will appear in your goddamn bedroom and snap your neck.
I like playing it in front of my D&D group occasionally. I'll stream it over our Zoom call. If we're having a dead night, I'll just walk in there. And you have to get to a certain part of the fight to trigger the vocals on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's jingle from FF14 that will stick in my head the longest.
If you say Lahi, I'm gonna smack you.
No, I'm not going to say Lockheed. Or as I like to call it, Deep Forest covers FF. But no. Painted Foothills.
Not coming to mind instantly, but I probably know it.
Ian Forland's main theme was also recovered for its nighttime theme and several dungeons. You notice...
That's why. I tried to spend as little time in Dravania as possible.
This is the song that makes you think, hey, I'm in a Rankin Bass Fantasy special in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it so much, because I loved the shit out of Flight of Dragons as a kid. And The Hobbit, of course, the Rankin Bass version of that in the late 70s. Okay, Lower Norfair from Super Metroid. Yeah. The original Metroid had a couple bangers that you didn't really think of back then either. Other games, odd songs you like. Faxanadu has some nice ones. Power Blade. Power Blade, as a series of 8-bit NES games, had amazing music. There are reasons those songs are getting covered now. Not as often as, say, Bloody Tears or Vampire Killer or Wicked Child from the Castlevania series, or Theme of Simon from Castlevania 4. Dun 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 dun. Sorry, that's Trevor's theme. Or are you talking the one where he first appears of
What?
Dun 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 dun.
What is he talking about?
Trevor's theme?
No, I'm talking about the Pirates chat that just popped off on Olaf's channel with gamers who's apparently listening but won't join in.
Okay, since you and Rast love D&D, you might get a kick out of this. What is this? Let's find out. I'm going to mute my mic for just a moment. For the sake of not disrupting our podcast's flow, I did zoom throughout that. Yes, thank you, gamers. This is an example of tables like that are actually sold at Gen Con, though this person appears to have done a homemade brew, and I approve of every ounce of this.
Of course, I am also role-playing in Second Life and trying not to be a DM, considering I am not the DM of this particular game. Because if I were, these two players that are sitting in the tavern, I would smack the shit out of them.
But yeah, I am not in FF at the moment, where I was running Maps Night before we started.
Have we spoken about Stay Alive?
Stay Alive,
Yeah.
the game where you just. I immediately thought of Don't Starve for some reason.
No, the horror movie.
We have not. I'm not too aware of what it's about.
It is a movie that it fits into our interests. Specifically, new video game goes around named Stay Alive, and at the beginning, you are required to read out loud a poem. Here's the thing. This came out when the PS2 was the Primarch of all gaming. So there is no
library.
There is no voice activation here, although they're all like, oh my god, it's voice activated. It's a good thing we're all having headsets and using a LAN party. I was like, first of all, I'm taken out of the immersion because you have 10 players in a LAN party, but go for it.
Everyone showed up on time?
Not only did they show up on time, everyone had their snacks, everyone had their bongs packed, all the sodas were done.
I miss my LAN parties that I was in even 10 years ago. Oh god,
But-
we were in there playing StarCraft.
So the beginning chant is actually a blood curse, which awakens in the heart of Louisiana Elizabeth fucking Bathory.
Well, don't you know, she's a ways away from home there.
Yeah, apparently she's locked in a tower in the middle of Louisiana. But the gimmick is,
I'm
As
sorry,
you-
but it's Louisiana. You don't build a tower in Louisiana. It will sink or a hurricane will eat it. One of the two. The
No.
players don't have to defeat Bathory. Louisiana will defeat Bathory.
yeah. So the gist is, as you play the game, she gets more and more efficient at hunting you. And then, when she kills you in game, not if, when she kills you in game, you then die the exact same way in real life.
Someone died of snoosuit to Lady Bathory, and it just did not go well.
No, she is incredibly cruel in this one. So, like, she has her favorite giant scissors that she likes to impale people with. She, of course, does the classic hanging by a meat hook and eviscerating. Let's see. She had a torture chair, which was basically the reverse bear trap from Saw years before Saw came out. But it also, the unlikely hero of the movie is Frankie Muniz.
Okay, I have to admit, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, it gives me my favorite line in all of horror, which is, at some point he has a laptop. Again, this is the era of PS2 being the most amazing machine. He has a laptop, not connected to Wi-Fi, in his van, in the middle of fucking Louisiana, somehow playing this game. No lag, no dropped frames. And then as he walks away to check something. The van closes because Elizabeth Bathory is a cheating bitch, and she starts playing the game in order to guide him into a death trap.
I just want to say one thing about the voice activation gimmick, or, poem, blood curse,
Yeah.
etc. Zelda 1 had voice activation, technically.
Okay, yeah, technically, but, that was
Yell into your controller
Yeah.
if you're in Japan.
superior.
The Fenicom.
Yeah, but, so as she's guiding him to this death trap, he looks in the van and he sees it happening. And he just gets angry and he, like, slams on the window and he's like, "Bitch! It's cheating! I'm not dead yet!" Which will forever be my favorite line in all of horror.
I mean, I think even though I'm an ex-Catholic and it's a priest who says it, my favorite line has to be, Oh, kick ass for the law!
Yeah, but this okay. Dead Alive is up there, but
Yes.
are we counting that as horror or comedy?
Yes.
Exactly.
We're counting that as that's the kind of thing you're doing next week.
We're counting this as this is what happens when you give Peter Jackson complete freedom over the movie.
Yes. Oh God! Suddenly, considering he did Lord of the Rings, the charge with all the dead souls on the ships could have been very different. We replaced the dead with monkeys, rat monkeys. Oh, Aragorn gets overrun from behind. Let's see. But, so I am predictably going to run again, assuming we do this, next week as 5th edition. Because it's what we all know. It's easy to pick up, it's easy to belt
Yeah.
out a character, especially for a one-shot.
I need to pick something other than a goddamn rogue.
Going outside your comfort zone is always fun. Like, I went out of my comfort zone to do a rogue.
I mean, I always pick
Currently-
rogue because I'm just naturally sneaky.
Currently in the 5th ed game, the other night, it was one of our rotating games. I was playing a 5th edition shaman, Draenei shaman, of course. This is the same group where I've imported my Sith warrior, so I play him there too
Oh,
as a chaotic good.
By the way, what I should have pointed out, you actually are aware of Gas Giant Rasclin. They're one of my D&D players.
Oh! Gas Giant, there are some things you can blame me for. I gave Caden ideas.
You gave me an entire storyline that I still need to reboot in.
I mean, it's not as weird as what I did, whereas I had a cult of twisted monophysites going around and trying to forcibly convert Chicago's Catholic population in a D&D game using the urban arcana setting, so there are elves and such going around the city, crossed over with Vampire the Masquerade, so the arch-villain is a 5th generation Toreador, and the Mind Flayer, who turned out to be Catholic, was the red herring. Because what do I run that makes sense?
A Catholic Mind Flayer.
Roman Catholic Mind Flayer insurance agent.
I remember you mentioning that one.
Lawful neutral. Unable to use telepathy. If you make telepathic contact with him, he drops over and starts spasming. I
Maybe I
don't
should-
make anything normal.
Maybe I should try playing a paladin. That'd be a twist for me.
I can't make any normal NPCs, can I?
I mean, that depends on your definition of normal.
The last time I rolled a rogue, I made certain that he was a homeless locksmith.
I mean, that's okay. I showed you that character idea I came up with on the fly earlier today.
What is my worst character concept, most twisted one I ever came... Oh, yeah. I'm not allowed into the local Vampire the Requiem LARP because I submitted 3 character concepts immediately, and they looked at all of them and said, no, no, and what the hell is wrong with you? For those of you who play Vampire the Masquerade or Requiem, you are going to hear the first of these concepts and go, no, seriously, what the hell is wrong with you? Gas Giant says, I played a warlock in Ghosts of Saltmarsh that started a cult in the city and used said cult to overthrow the government and make peace with the lizard folk and then defeated the Sahagin. Okay. I came up to the storytellers of the local LARP and asked to play a Diablerie victim. Not a Diablerist. Well, technically, I'm the victim. I'm the person who got Diablerized.
So if we get gamers in next week and we do run the game, I insist he be the warlock whose patron is chat.
Okay.
I don't care if he does it metaphorically or if we actually just run to where anything anyone says in chat is now his holy order. I just think it'd be hilarious.
I think I played... Alright, when I said Diablerie victim, I wanted to play a Ventru who got Diablerized by a Bruja, the rolled into Gangrel version of Bruja, ate his Diablerist from within, woke up, and was suddenly, trapped in the body of an extremely tattooed biker when before he'd been a very pampered little rich boy. Okay. Other things I did. Ordo Dracul. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Ordo Dracul are in Vampire the Requiem, imagine the I will adapt and get better philosophy of the Zimiche. The I will find ways to circumvent sunlight, blood hunger, frenzy, stuff like this. That's their whole thing, is they're an organization that says the only way out of vampirism is through. Become a better monster to achieve the next stage of evolution. Interesting, supposedly created by the Requiem universe's version of Dracula, whose clan is left up to the imagination. But I wanted to play a member who is experimenting on humans, creating powers for them instead. How can a human circumvent things like needing to breathe, needing to eat, deadly temperatures?
Stubbornness? Stubbornness?
I was actually coming up with... I later took this character and ran him as an NPC, and he was terrifying to my players.
I imagine he would be.
Because he embraced 4 of them.
Which would be more terrifying as a character base, Florida man or Chicago man?
Dostron says, I played in a WoW 5e game and played as an undead paladin who was the last knight of Lordaeron. He was a super zealot who splashed himself in holy water every morning to get his spells. I understand I played a vampire who worshipped the sun. That was that Gangrel I played for 4 years. He was Guru Kinfolk. It's funny you mention this because there was official World of War... Well, Gas Giant probably knows this. There was official Warcraft and later World of Warcraft stuff for 3.0 and 3.5.
I like the fact that you made him a Gangrel and not a Malkavian. Well, I mean, that way he doesn't have the excuse of just, oh, I'm a Malkavian. We're all supposed to be insane.
I don't know. I mean, I've done all sorts of things. So one of the weirder ones I've ever portrayed, this was in a game of, let's see here. I was running the first of my D20 Modern Vampire the Masquerade crossovers, but this one was just strict up in the Vampire the Masquerade universe, not one of my weird hybrid worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Just the system I was using happened to be D20. Yes, in Bloodlines, yes, Giant. The sequel might actually come out next year. We'll see. So I made a character named Patches, and Patches was a Zimiche who was several people who had all been amalgamated and then embraced all at once. Each personality was a different set of mental attributes and a different road of morality with morality score. One of him, was on Road of Illumination, which is a humanity variant that uses conviction instead of conscience. Dark Ages. And it was interesting, tutoring a player's character in the most inhumane version of humanity. It's also sometimes known as Path of a Zimishe humanity. And it involves actively searching for Golconda in a way that is technically humane, but not exactly orthodox. Oh, Malkavians. It can be played very well or very poorly.
I can only imagine that you played one interesting Toreador.
I only played a Toreador speed metal guitarist once.
You only did it once.
That was the only Toreador I've played that I remember. I actually, for Gen Con a few years ago, I entered a game and said, "What do you got for me?" I said, "Take a random one?" "Sure." And they gave me a Zimishe with a humanity of 8. Okay, game on. I basically played him as a gangrel. Because in 5th edition, Zimishe have Protean, so what can you do? Rasclin uses weird words that a lot of people at home didn't understand just now.
I'm just sitting over here like, yes, I understand. I don't understand.
Imagine converting Paths of Enlightenment over to the alignment system of D&D. Why did I do that? Because it was very ill-advised.
Why did you do that? Because you're an ex-Catholic? Occasionally, you still feel the need to suffer.
I converted to Welsh Druidic Reconstructionism, so arguably I didn't change religions at all.
You know, the funny thing is, I was talking to my boyfriend earlier, like, I think last month. I pointed out, I don't know any current Catholics. Every Catholic I've ever met is always an ex-Catholic.
I know, like, 2 off the top of my head who are current. Like, one kind of knows what my religion is, the other would rather not know, thank you very much. My family is made of lapsed Catholics, so
Yeah.
my sister's practically Unitarian. My mom is... I don't think she knows how to handle church. And my dad is non-denominational Christian, so... he would probably lean towards Protestantism. Yeah, I basically apostatized, so take that as you will. That means, yes, I believe the God of Christianity exists. He ain't my God. That's basically where I'm at. I know a lot more Protestants, Presbyterians mostly, now that I think about it. Some Pentecostals. I know a ton of agnostics and atheists. Surprising no one. Olive, what religion are you?
Dog.
Very good. If my cat were still alive, she would probably go, "Me. There is nothing else that need be worshipped."
All cats are Satanists.
No, all cats are some sort of maybe they're Anton LaVey Satanists.
Yes, yes, proper Satanists, not New Age.
Well, I mean, the Anton LaVey are more like nihilists. Well,
More extreme hedonists.
but the Church of Satan or the Temple of Satan actually does great work in social justice.
Which is
Fun thing,
hilarious.
right? Big old iconography of Baphomet, fighting for your freedom. It's like that episode of Futurama where the Satanist says he'll die for old glory and waves the American flag.
I mean, it makes sense, you know. Baphomet, we don't care what you are. We just care that you die and we get your soul.
My gods don't even want your soul. I have some.
It's gonna be
odd guys.
really confusing when I die, when if afterlife happens. Because if all gods are one god, but they separate to go to different people in order to make them understand, but then every man is a god unto himself. We'll have a fist fight to see which afterlife I end up in.
Oh, I know what. If they're trying to throw me into my next incarnation, my gods might look at me and say, "Well, here's a 20-sider. Roll it."
You know what? I am glad I'm not Catholic right now. Because when I grew up, one of my many jokes among when I grow up I want to be in a padded cell with a hug me jacket was when I die, I just want to be in limbo. But if I was Catholic, can't do that anymore because the Pope fucking banished it.
So you go either to what, the first circle of hell or purgatory?
No, there is no purgatory anymore.
Wait, they took purgatory out with limbo?
Yes. According to Pope Francis, you go to heaven or you go to hell. There is no more in between.
I'm glad I'm not Catholic, so I don't have to think about that anymore.
Well, here's the first thing that everyone asked. It wasn't even, hey, what happens if I was a good person but made some mistakes? It was always, what about the babies?
Big old Baphomet and an inverted pentagram in Gas Giant's thing. Okay. There is... I know some teachers who are running D&D after-school clubs. I've been in D&D games with them. Not as one of their students, but, you know, they came to go for our local shop, and they would play a game where they didn't have to run. God, that was so long ago. For the system, Savage Worlds. Dice and cards are used. Oh, chick tracks.
Ugh, chick tracks.
But seriously, if you're ever in a Savage Worlds game, yeah, it can get a little tedious depending on what it is, but the second you go through the cards, you deal the cards for initiative, and the second someone gets... and everyone just screams the song. And the gaming shop gets very, very awkward within seconds. And so they belt out the rest of the song. Something happening there in Second Life?
Oh, a lot of things. Like I said, I was sitting here watching this RP scene, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. So the problem is, in every campaign, we know, there's always one player that doesn't want to take anything seriously. The problem with this is, A, we're using Dragonbane, not D&D, so the not taking it seriously doesn't work.
Hmm.
And B, we have 3 players that didn't want to take anything seriously. But the way they don't take anything seriously just doesn't work with each other. Like, one is supposed to be what we call an icon, which is basically the leader of a tract of land. But they decide to play theirs as some sort of, like, just batshit insane, not even serious. They're just random as hell. Yeah. So you'll be having a conversation, and they'll say shit that, like, you can't even like moderately tie to the conversation. So,
Like the absolute non sequitur.
like, yeah, basically. And then the other one wants to play a how to describe it? A winged elf thief that hunts squirrels. Yeah. And, like, the problem is everyone else was sitting here, and I know there are people who are in Second Life and in this particular roleplay listening. I don't care, this is OOC, I'm allowed to bitch, this is my channel. The problem is, like, we had maybe 6-7 people all in this tavern, and most of them were trying to take it seriously and, you know, interconnect their characters, tell the story, and then these two are just swinging for the fences and derailing shit. And it wouldn't be so bad if one of them didn't have the tendency to take swings at other players with their in-character actions.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, I've seen some of that in my time. Oh gods, I've been tabletop gaming for over 30 years.
Don't you love it when we do things like that? We just stop and think of one of our hobbies and just, oh dear God.
I remember 40 years ago, most of my gaming was on Coleco.
Yeah, see, Gas Giant also plays Second Life with me. That's how we met. And
Okay.
yeah, you're right. You do get silly, and, like, you'll get random every now and then. But whenever it's actually time to get serious and advance the story, you actually buckle down and do your best. In fact, that's why I know that if they had chosen a Oathbreaker Paladin to play in the D&D campaign, they would have done amazing with it. Because the first RP that we did was also in a roleplay sim, and their character was a priest for a goddess that nobody fucking liked. It was... okay. I'll put it this way. Me, Gas Giant, and Olav all have history. We all met in the same place. So you are aware of the horror stories of G-Land or Gondwana, whatever the fuck we want to call it. So
I know they happened, I don't know them in detail.
one night I will make that a topic. That was 8 months of pure hell in my life. So we'll put it this way. The sim owner, for lack of a better word, wanted to be that DM that was everywhere. So he insisted on having a player character in every faction. But then he also played 3 gods that he wanted to be the trifecta end-all, be-all leadership of the Sin. And one of them was Suna, goddess of sex, pleasure, and the sun. So, Gas Giant's character was her high priestess. Mine was the witch queen who worshipped the moon and absolutely fucking hated Suna. Not even because she was the sun, just she couldn't stand anything that Suna did or stood for. And so there was just one night where the priestess walked into my tent and was like, you know what? I'm defecting. So we just had like this great storyline of corruption and defection and all that. And then, of course, he caught wind of it and was like, oh, well, you can't do that because I'm promoting her to moderator, so she has to stay where she is.
Weirdest tie-in I've had with someone else's character. Changeling the Lost. My first character was a fetch. The fetch of someone else's changeling character. I looked 20 years older than him, so I masqueraded as his dad.
I mean, it works.
Yeah. It was an interesting dynamic, having a changeling and their fetch not want to kill each other. So I was running a fashion company, was an ex-model on paper. So here's my long-lost son, and he's also the star of our new lineup of clothing. So I actually was wearing a suit to game and everything. This is back when I weighed about 135 pounds at 6 foot, so I got a very odd-looking figure in said suit. Now I'm a little under 165. So I'd probably do it better now, I guess.
Maybe?
I pretended to be a chicken and would use magic to tie people's shoes together and undo their belts. I'm going to file this next to... In Miss Pandaria, in WoW, so right after you left in Kata, Gas Giant, you run across these kobold-like creatures that are like rat-rabbit kobolds called vermin. And they will have ridiculous lines like you spray a turnip orange to make it look like a carrot, and 3 of them will walk up and go, looks like a carrot, one knocks on it. Sounds like a carrot. The third one will go, seems legit. Like, literally, that's the words they use. And you find out they're involved in a horrible plot where they're stealing farm implements from the local Pandaren and then burying them in the ground. And when you find out why, it's because they think that's how plants work, so they're trying to grow farm implements. They're trying to grow wheelbarrows and rakes, thinking if they bury one, they'll get like 5 sprout up or something. And I strive for that level of horrible inanity when I come up with things like that. My players encountered kobolds in the sewers and made the horrendous mistake of offering one a Tootsie Roll. A horrifying cry rang out from beneath Chicago's sewer system as every kobold at once screamed, "Chaka!"
I love how the mic just cut off in the middle of that scream, but also, Olive really wants attention.
And now she's back to her pillow. Okay, now she's okay with just getting scripted.
Okay, do we have any more, like, really passionate, insane points that we wanted to talk about, or is it devolved into the inane bitching part of the night?
I thought it devolved into that hours ago, or at least 30 minutes ago.
I mean, to be fair, this channel is always, like, the inane bitching part of the night.
So, yeah. So, for a record, for a character, think horror comedy. Throw me someone who would fit in a standard D&D world. Base, complete base character, 5th level. Go outside your comfort zone if you think it will help.
I really don't want to play a caster.
Divine or arcane?
Any. I do not want to play a caster.
Okay. So no arcane tricksters either, or eldritch knights.
Well, let's see. Which horror comedy archetypes do we want to focus on?
Dracula Dead and Loving It is an inspiration.
Okay.
The bits of it that are actually funny. Dracula Dead and Loving It has a problem of being too close to the actual Dracula. So
Basically, every time Mel Brooks isn't being funny in that movie, he's showing off that he could damn well be a dramatic actor if he wanted to.
Yes. Nielsen as well.
Well, Nielsen was a dramatic actor.
He was a villain in so many westerns for years, but he got relegated to comedy for the latter part of his life.
He chose that. The whole story is that he wanted to be a dramatic actor, and then they did Airplane, but they didn't tell him that it was a comedy, so he acted the shit out of it just to be serious. Then he watched himself on screen and realized how wooden he appeared dealing with everyone else, and he's like, nah, I gotta do comedy. Which, to be fair, was a good choice, because if he had never chosen to do comedy and stayed with drama, we never would have gotten Naked Gun.
Yeah. Hey, puppers. Who's your puppers?
I don't know. I've never known how to feel about Peter McNichols in Dracula Dead and Loving It.
You know what should have happened but didn't, and it's going to eternally be a lost opportunity? Because it should have happened in the 70s. The Monty Python crew should have done a take on Dracula.
They really should have.
It would have been amazing. Like, I'm sorry, but Life of Brian was kind of a waste of time. Holy Grail, great. Meaning of Life, loved it. Life of Brian, what the hell are we doing, guys? There's some gems in this thing, but overall, I'm like, what are we even doing?
Okay, so let's do a Dreamcast. First off, who would play Dracula?
Gotta be Cleese.
I don't know. I feel like Cleese would be the safe choice.
But he's also the tallest member, the most imposing member.
He also does have the best stash.
And Dracula in the original book actually was an older man with a mustache.
Yep.
Now, going down the list, Harker. I want to say idle, but good cases could be made against.
I don't know.
Chapman would also
No.
be a possibility here.
Idol wouldn't be a good Jonathan, though. When he does Oblivious, it's always like kind of dumb Oblivious. We need honest, genuine Oblivious.
Chapman is Harker. Okay.
Yeah. Which leaves... Do we want Idol or Graham for Von Helsing?
Let's give it to the American, actually. Let's pull up our crew, so I've got them all.
I mean, I feel like Terry would be a good Von Helsing, but he never liked being in the spotlight.
Well, okay, so we've got, let's go down there, typical Chapman, Cleese, Idle, Jones, Palin, Gilliam.
Palin.
Adams was a member of the troop. Douglas Adams. Let's see here. Who was the woman who was in a good chunk of it during the series?
I do not remember her name.
Carol Cleveland?
I think that was it, yes.
Connie Booth was also heavily involved at times. Alright, so let's get Carol Cleveland in there and Connie Booth. One of them's got to play Nina, one of them's got to play Lucy. It's honestly could go either way as to who's who. They both know what they're doing with response to either role. Well, depending on what version, how they do Lucy.
No. We definitely need we need Lucy and Mina to be drag.
Okay, if you're going to do Lucy and Mina as drag, Van Helsing needs to also be drag.
So you want a reverse drag for Van Helsing?
I want reverse drag. I want Carol Cleveland as Dr. Van Helsing.
I could see that.
All right, we've got something here.
Well, their normal drag was usually Palin, Idle, and Jones.
Right. Well, Chapman would do it occasionally too.
True, he would.
Cleese not as often, but would happen.
No, there you go. That's what we need. We need Mina, poor little innocent Mina, to be Cleese.
Who's Dracula now?
I don't know. I just want the jacked up version of Cleese in his prime to be Mina.
Okay, Cleese in his prime is Mina. That means Cleese's first wife, Connie Booth, is Dracula.
That could work. Just with a ridiculous fake mustache.
Yes. Okay. This could work. We may have to stoop to AI to make this happen. I hate myself. I hate myself. But my gods, this casting works. This is terrifying. We need a screen treatment.
We do. We need a screenplay. We need gags. I mean, just the sight gag of Cleese being Mina and having to fight off Dracula would be hilarious.
Actually, Connie Booth carrying him away would really sell this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, knocks him upside the head and just throws him over her shoulder and hauls off with him. We need to make this. We need to make it absolutely even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I feel horrible for what I just thought of. Also, it's not funny enough to work. It's just it was shocking enough that it could kind of work coming from her mouth, but it's not worth the shock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hold off on what I was thinking. Yeah, that would have been amazing. Graham Chapman didn't live very far into the 80s, did he? Maybe they could have done it then, but... Also, it's about the 2 hour mark, and we are kind of rambling.
Yeah, that's what I was asking earlier, is if this has devolved into the inane bitching part of the night.
So, shall we do our outros?
Mine's gonna be basic as shit. Thank you everybody for listening. Sorry for the 8 minutes of goddamn dead silence on my end. I will remember to check the equipment next time. But then again, this was hastily slapped together because we didn't know whether or not we were doing it on this channel or Olaf Productions until what, 8:40, 9:40.
Something like that.
Yeah. So
Hey, we'll sketch about some of our social media with it afterwards. So,
yes. Speaking of social media, we have. I am on Blue Sky now. I am not going to post a link just yet, not until I get that more sorted out. And of course, you
have
can
my-
always join our Discord and do the Patreon below if you think that we deserve it. And other than that, we'll see you next week. We don't know which channel, but join us if you like.
tomorrow night, Over the Edge on Community Radio for East Central Illinois, 90.1 FM, WEFT Champaign. Streaming online at new.weft.org/listen. And yes, we have permanently deleted our Twitter account and are now on Blue Sky. That is at rasclin.bluesky.social. You know how these things work.
Yeah, so again, throw me that and I'll just start dropping that in the link description.
Will do.
Alright. Well, everybody, thank you and have a great night.